Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into an updated look post week 3 at the AP poll. I'm going to go through all the top 25, the movers, the trend lines. Let's take a look. Ohio State remains number one. They've got 55 of the first place votes still. They beat Ohio. They did not cover the spread. They kicked a few field goals in the red zone, but they did outgain them significantly. It does not surprise me that Ohio State is still number one. They have, I believe, a bye week this coming week, and then they face Washington on the road, which could be kind of a tough matchup for them. So, Ohio State, they've got the week one win against Texas. That win is looking worse and worse, but it still is a ranked win. They are the defending national champions, and they are 3-0, and they do look very good with a young quarterback who's extremely talented. You've got Penn State remaining at number two. Just barely, though, just 20 points in front of LSU, so it does seem like there are more voters ranking Penn State a little bit lower. They beat an FCS team in Villanova 52-6, although this game was a little bit closer than that, especially at halftime. It was another very slow start for Penn State's offense. Not that it matters a ton because they've got a bye week and then they've got the huge game against Oregon, so whether Penn State's at number 2, number 3, number 4 really doesn't matter. Their next ranking will be fully dependent on what happens against Oregon. This non-conference slate for Penn State was horrifically bad. They didn't perform the best against it, but they still easily won all three of their games, and so they are 3-0. So that's back-to-back Big Ten teams. You do have the SEC LSU at number 3. They did beat Florida 20-10. LSU at this point, I would say, is losing some steam in terms of people's opinion. When you think about their huge win against Clemson, Clemson now I would imagine is unranked. I haven't gone down to the rankings to look yet, but that was their huge win. It was on the road. It was more impressive than the 7-point victory showed, but still, that win is now unranked. You look at their week 2 performance against a bad team, it was not that good. They beat Florida. Florida doesn't look to be too good. Lagway threw 5 interceptions. They only won by 10 points. LSU does not look like they have a good running game. It looks like the skill position receivers are a little lacking. And so at this point, I think LSU at number 3. We'll see, but the SEC is a gauntlet. They're likely to lose a few games when it comes to getting more into conference play. You have Miami moving up one spot. I'm sure a lot of people probably ranked Miami in front of LSU. Miami looks really good right now. They got the win against Notre Dame, although Notre Dame did lose again, but I think Notre Dame's still a good team. And then they beat South Florida. South Florida was 2-0. They were ranked. Miami crushes South Florida. We'll see what South Florida ends up being this year. I think they're probably like a 7-5 team, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a win as we progress further on in the season, but it is still a solid win for Miami, and now they're up to number 4. And there's people that argue they should be number 1, number 2, but they're at number 4. You've got Georgia moving up a spot. They beat Tennessee. Very impressive road win. Higher scoring game. Georgia was losing this for much of the game. They were down 21-7. They were down 38-30. Tennessee had a chance, like a 40-yard field goal to win. They missed it. Georgia did get a few breaks, but you give them credit. 44 points on the road. Gunnar Stockton, first major impression into the college football world. It is a victory, and Georgia sitting at 3-0. They've got the huge game in a few weeks against Bama. You have Oregon moving down 2 spots, kind of as a byproduct of Georgia's win and Miami's win. Really not Oregon playing bad. They were up 34-0 against Northwestern. They easily won 34-14. Kind of a sleepy, early in the day game. Oregon, again, they've got the huge game against Penn State. That's going to be their early season make or break, dependent on if they win that game. They potentially could be top 2, maybe even the number 1 team in the country, getting a road win at Penn State. You're talking about the best win of the college football season if that happens. And you're talking about an Oregon team that, in terms of the analytics, is the number 1 team in college football. Now, the resume's not there yet, but if they beat Penn State, you do have Florida State moving up 3 spots. So Florida State, they were off. They had an early bye, and they do have the huge win in week 1 against Alabama that looks better and better. Bama just played a great game. So Florida State sitting at 2-0. And that win against Alabama is going to be huge for them in the ACC. That could allow them to get an at-large bid if they lose a few games in the ACC or they lose the ACC championship. They've got that non-conference win against Bama if Bama has a really good season. Texas moves down 1 spot. They're only 1 point in front of Illinois, and these teams are very, very close. Texas could very easily be ranked 10th right now, and I think that's probably where they should be ranked. Arch Manning does not look good at all. Yeah, he was 8 of 22 against UTEP at one point. I don't know if he has a shoulder injury or what's going on, or people say he's just overrated. at number 8, it's very charitable to rank them number 8. That game was very bad against UTEP. And you could say, well, they only lost to a touchdown. They only lost by a touchdown against Ohio State, but still. You've got Illinois at number 9. Yeah, so Illinois, they easily beat Western Michigan. I don't think Illinois is a top 10 team at all. We'll see, though. They face Indiana this week on the road. Indiana's going to be favorites in that game, so if they get that win on the road, they also face Ohio State in a few weeks at home. You have Texas A&M at number 10, up 6 spots. They did beat Notre Dame, and this is big for the SEC because now you've got another SEC team. This is a non-conference win, and they're a top 10 team. So whoever they face, if they lose to another SEC team, that's going to be a huge win for the SEC team that beats them. It's going to catapult that team. And so, A&M, are they really a top 10 team? Did Notre Dame give that game away? Well, I mean, A&M did play very well offensively. Reed had a ton of passing yards, and A&M is sitting at number 10. You've got Oklahoma at number 11. Oklahoma looks pretty good. I think Oklahoma, you've got a game against Auburn, then you've got Kent State, then you've got Texas. I think those are winnable games. You got to beat Auburn at home if you're Oklahoma. With Mateer, then you've got Kent State, an easy win, and then you're possibly looking at Oklahoma being ranked right along the same lines as where Texas is. That's going to be like a 7v8 matchup. If Texas doesn't drop another game, that's going to be a really good matchup, and Oklahoma could easily win that game. I mean, I think the SEC is just such a meat grinder this year. You've got Iowa State somehow moving up 2 spots after barely beating Arkansas State. I guess it's just a byproduct of teams losing. You've got Ole Miss moving up 4 spots after beating Arkansas by 6. They were, I think, 6.5-point favorites in that game. I'm not really sold on Ole Miss with their quarterback situation and their defense. Lane Kiffin, normally not great defenses, but we'll see. Alabama up 5 spots. Bama up 5 spots. Doesn't surprise me. Very impressive, dominant win over Wisconsin. Bama's run game is a bit concerning. We'll see. Wisconsin is always normally a good run defense team, and Bama certainly has extremely talented skill position players. Ty Simpson really is making himself feel at home. He looks really good in terms of pocket movement and pocket presence, and so we'll see. Tennessee stays at number 15, so there's some SEC love for sure. They drop a game early in the season, they stay right. I mean, Tennessee did control a lot of that game. They were up 21-7. They were up by 8 late in that game. They missed a field goal. It certainly wasn't a chip shot, especially for a college kicker, like 43 yards. But it was a makeable kick, and they could have very easily beaten Georgia, very easily. So you lose, very close overtime game, walk-off touchdown by Georgia. It's unfortunate, but it is a good loss. You have to say it's a good loss, even though it's a home loss. But that's going to be tough for Tennessee because they're going to have tough road games now that they're going to have to win. You have Utah up 4 spots. Really not impressed with Utah. They were up 3-0 against Wyoming going into the second half. It was a road game, but I think Texas Tech is going to beat Utah. And then you can see Texas Tech, who faces Utah on the road, they're up to number 17. Really haven't faced anyone yet. The non-conference schedule was really bad, but it's an impressive start for Texas Tech. They're 3-0 against the spread. You've got Georgia Tech entering at number 18 out of the ACC. They beat Clemson by 3. I think Georgia Tech, their potential is very limited just due to their offense. Haynes King is a gamer, but he seems to get injured, and it seemed like he was injured throughout that entire Clemson game, but he kind of toughed it through, and they were able to, they were up 13-0, then they trailed, and then they ended up winning, and they really did control that game against Clemson, although I believe Clemson outgained them, but still, it's a very good win for Georgia Tech, so it doesn't surprise me that they're catapulting inside the top 20. Indiana up 3 spots. They annihilated Indiana State. Really bad non-conference, but I think Indiana has a lot more offensive upside than Illinois, and Indiana gets Illinois at home. 7:30 night game. That's going to be huge for Illinois and I should say Indiana and their fan base. So I think Indiana, they could catapult inside the top 15 or top 10 if they win that. Vanderbilt enters the ranks at number 20. They crushed South Carolina. The Sellers injury certainly helped a little bit, but they deserve to be ranked 100%. They got a nice non-conference win the week before. Michigan up 2 spots at number 21. They destroyed Central Michigan. What were they, 27, 28-point favorites? They win by 60. I mean, that's a very impressive difference in terms of that. Yes, it is a bad MAC team, but still. You've got Auburn at 22, up 2 spots. I don't really see why. They're 25-point favorites against South Alabama. They win by 16. I'm not high on Auburn. I think they'll lose to Oklahoma. It is a tough game for Auburn on the road. Auburn does have a slight, I would say, skill position advantage over Oklahoma, but Oklahoma is at home in that one. Missouri up 2 spots. Impressive win. They were around 27-point favorites. They win by 42. It's a nice win, handling their business. Notre Dame is still ranked down 16 spots at number 24. They're 0-2. They lost to Miami, very tough situation. Breaking in CJ Carr, new quarterback, really weird game. They didn't really utilize Love, their star running back. I would say when it comes to Notre Dame at this point, they obviously have to win out. So they've got to go 10-2. They're an independent. Even then, they're going to need Miami to be like 11-1 because that could be a quality road loss. And then they're also going to need A&M to be like 10-2, 9-3. So those could be two really good losses. But then they're also going to need a team like USC to be very good. And then they're going to have to beat USC. They're going to need quality wins. It's going to be hard for Notre Dame to make the playoff. I think they have a chance to make it. Obviously, they lose another game, they're going to be out completely. They could still be out even if they go 10-2 because of the nature of them being independent. And also their schedule. We'll see if there's any quality wins they can pick up. This could be one. It's USC. USC is a very polarizing team. They had a random game where it was like a weather delay. It was supposed to be a 3:30 start. It ended up starting at 7. And USC is like a top 10 team according to analytics. They have a potent offense. They've had a very easy schedule. There's no doubt about it. They could very easily lose a bunch of games. I know they've got a huge home game against Michigan. They've got the game against Notre Dame. But USC does enter the ranks finally at number 25. Teams receiving votes, you've got BYU. So they were nearly ranked. They got 94 votes. South Florida does drop back out of the top 25 because they got pummeled. If South Florida would have kept it close against Florida, or excuse me, against Miami, they would have stayed ranked for sure. They lost by like 37 points. South Carolina, yeah, South Carolina's just been bad this year, and then you lose 31-7, even with the injured quarterback. They got to be knocked off. Mississippi State, they're undefeated. They're 3-0. They got some votes. TCU, Arizona State, Tulane is now 3-0 after beating Duke. Louisville, Nebraska, they've got a huge game against Michigan. Baylor, Clemson still gets some votes at 1-2. SMU, NC State at 3-0, UNLV, and then Navy as well. So I would say Notre Dame, it's a dire situation. I still think they can make the playoff, but they're going to need a bunch of other stuff to happen. Moving on up, you've got Vanderbilt catapulting from outside the top 25 to number 20. You've got Georgia Tech catapulting to number 18. You've got an interesting game this week, 16-17, Utah against Texas Tech. Utah is hosting. You have Tennessee staying where they are after the early season loss. You have Bama already moving back up. People were wondering, would Bama be unranked after that week 1 loss to FSU? Personally, I think that week 1 loss was very fluky. I think it was just one of those random week 1 ambush games where you've got a young quarterback, if you're Bama, who really isn't seasoned. You're on the road. You could certainly say, I mean, there was some poor effort, and DeBoer gets the blame for that. On the defensive side, I know people were talking about that. They were magnifying it. But it still is a ridiculously talented Bama team. But we do have to say, I mean, the SEC is just, it is crazy. Bama is going to have many games where they could potentially lose. This could be a team that could still lose 4 games this year, Alabama, very easily. I mean, you've got Georgia in a few weeks anyway. So, and then it's like their entire schedule is ranked teams. So it's not like Bama's turned it around completely, but their talent level would say, even though it is Wisconsin, that game was a massive blowout. It very easily could have been 45-0 or 45-7. Other teams, A&M moves up to number 10. You could say at 3-0 at this point, A&M beating Notre Dame. If you're A&M, you're 1,000% rooting for Notre Dame the rest of the season. That could be a huge road win. If Notre Dame loses 2 or 3 more games and A&M ends up losing a few games in the SEC, it's going to be hard to tout that win. But if Notre Dame goes 9-3 or 10-2, now you're talking about a non-conference road win against a team that could be a top 10, top 15 team. That's going to be huge for their resume. Texas, I'm surprised they didn't fall further, but if you look at the total points, they're very close to falling further. And I just think that I don't know what's going on with Manning. I have no clue. It does not look good. But other than that, I mean, the top 3 teams stay the same. It doesn't really matter in terms of Penn State. Should they be number 2, number 3? They're facing Oregon in 2 weeks. So that's going to sort itself out very, very soon. And they've got a bye week. So I believe Ohio State and Penn State both have bye weeks. LSU faces like SE, Louisiana, Southeastern Louisiana, I believe. So they face no one. So these 2 teams have byes. They face no one. Miami, I don't know who Miami faces Florida at home. And who knows about that game, but you would imagine, I mean, Florida, they're talented, but they've looked pretty bad early on in the season. And then you do have, yeah, we'll see. I mean, and then for Oregon might be the number 1 team in the country in 2 weeks. They could be. Analytically, they're already the number 1 team. If they go on the road and beat Penn State, would they catapult Ohio State and be the number 1 team? Because I think they would at least be number 2. Oregon would be. So that's something to look at, because the problem for Ohio State is Texas is going to start facing some of these good teams. If Texas starts losing, that good win for Ohio State gets kind of invalidated for sure, because especially Arch Manning didn't even look that good against Ohio State. So, and again, I don't know what the problem is there, but it does seem to be an issue. We'll have to see. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also, follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.